Okay, thanks everyone for joining today's webinar. We got Kyuko Wang here. She's running Pylontech for North America, and she will do a presentation about Pylontech as a company. And then we have a special guest, Alexander Wolf. He will be doing the main part of the presentation about the 12-volt battery that Pylontech is just starting to bring into North America, which has just received certification recently, and we're really excited about that product. So a little bit of backstory about the relationship with Pylontech and Frankensolar. When Alex joined us in 2014, 2015, one of his first calls was actually to Pylontech, a company he knew from the European market. And Pylontech was quite successful in the European market, and our colleagues over there had really good success with Pylontech in Europe. However, unfortunately, the product was not certified for the North American market at the time, didn't have UL or CSA certification yet. So some time went by, and in 2019, I believe, Pylontech got UL certification, and Alex saw that, and of course, we called QQ, who we knew from her previous days at a solar panel manufacturer. Was that what was the brand again? QQ.
Jinko Solar.
That was Chenko. That's right. We dealt with QQ at Chenko back then when Hamish was running Frankensolar in 2014. So yeah, so that's kind of how it all started. And since I think last year we started carrying the 3000 series from Pylontech, which has had an amazing success in the Canadian market. I think it's by far the #1 selling battery right now here in this market for off-grid and backup solutions. So all that being said, I would like to pass it on to QQ so she can do a presentation about Pylontech.
Sure. Thanks. Thank you, Danny. It's my honor to be working together again.
Yes.
Okay, let me share.
Well, we have a different presentation now for you here. We've changed, like we used your slides.
Oh, yeah. Can I
just
share my slides?
we have the same ones as yours, but they're already on here. So I don't know if I can pass on control, but I can just tell me when to go to the next slide. It's all the same.
I added one more page, but it's okay.
Okay.
First, it's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, thanks for everyone here and Frankensolar as one of our major distributor in North America. It's I'm so happy we starting to do some webinars together. It's my honor to be invited to do the presentation today. So maybe most of those attendants have heard of Pylontech brand and heard of our products before, but maybe don't know our company. So today, me as on behalf of Pylontech, I'm gonna give you a presentation of Pylontech company, who we are and what we produce. How do we service the market? So till today, we have been in the market for more than 10 years. We started in 2009 and until today already 13 years. And we ranked as #2 global residential supplier. And #1 is Tesla, but #2 is Pylontech. Of course, in North American market, we are pretty new here, but in Australia, in Europe, we ranked as a top brand. So hopefully with our partners here, we can expand the North American market very soon. Maybe a few years later, here in the market, everyone knows Pylontech.
Absolutely. I think we're off to a great start, QQ.
Okay, and next page, please.
Sure.
So till today, we have delivered more than 3.6 gigawatt hour batteries to globally. to more than 80 countries in different environments, which our products is residential modularized batteries, has been approved by the market from the south to the north of the whole global market, in very cold, even in very hot area. And the good news here, we have delivered more than 350,000 systems, but none of them get fired. In the last few years, we have heard some batteries has fires. Maybe not all the fires caused by the batteries, but has some problems because of the heat, right? But our products, that's our first to make it safe. We are not the cheapest one because we have very high strict quality control system for the quality. Quality is our most important thing. And till today, we have developed more than 60 our own patents. So if you have been used our batteries, you can feel from the outside of the outlook, you maybe don't tell the difference with other similar brands, similar products. But after you use in a few years, you will see the difference. The quality continues. And our products is very flexible. From 12 volts, can be used from 12 volts to 1,500 volts system to meet different inquiries. And Pylontech, we as one of a few vertical integration manufacturer in the world. We have our own R&D center to developing BMS system. And we have our own cell manufacturing system of production. And we also have 2 module manufacturers in China. And also, Danny, I don't know if you can click the link, which is our cell facility.
Sure, I can. I just have to share the 1 second because it's a different screen.
Okay.
Just bear with me.
Sure. And even for the cell manufacturing, we know we have to buy the raw materials to produce the cells. But we also have the raw material supplier, which is our from our second biggest shareholder. So that means give us enough supply of cell materials. During this time, everyone shortage of materials, we don't have that problem. So normally
I think QQ, that's a really, really big important fact here, that you're mentioning, the fact that there is going to be a shortage of cells, battery cells in the market. And can you tell us a little bit why there will be a shortage or is a shortage?
Yes, the materials in shortage mostly because kind of like energy storage is fighting with the electrical cars batteries. We know one of those, some of those giants, BYD, CATL, 90% of their capacity has been allocated to the EV cars. That is fast running, like has financial support and even has government policies have to do electrical cars in different countries. So that make huge demand of LFP batteries too. And energy storage, we kind of like still early stage of the whole industry. And right now, the cost is still a little bit higher than our expectation. That kind of make the market couldn't growing as fast as EV cars. So, but we know all those suppliers still expansion the capacity. But during this special situation, COVID-19 slowed down everything. even right now, we don't have problem of the supply chain to meet our own capacity, which is 6 gigawatt hour. But another problem is the COVID-19 kind of like stop the shipping from Shanghai seaport. So good luck. We have facilities in like here, pack assemble. You see Huangshi, Pylontech. We have another facility there. We can shipping from there. But because batteries is hazard products, we have to working with the customs to figure out how to deliver our batteries from different seaports. Okay, so then you couldn't open the link?
I can open the link if you want to watch it quickly, sure. I had it open. I just have to open this the screen here.
Mm-hmm.
Share. This one. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I can play it now.
Yeah. No sound? Should I have sound? But it's okay. It's just music.
Oh, you can't hear the sound?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's really unfortunate you guys can't hear the music because it's really good. Because I can hear it. We will share the link to this video after, so everyone can watch it after as well.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so we know a lot of battery manufacturer from the market, but not like actually most of them, they don't have their own cell facilities. They have to purchase cell from different manufacturer. But the thing is, if you purchase cells from someone else, how can you know how the cell's performance? Because it's chemicals. It's all chemicals activities inside the cell pack. So that is the most important. We control the cell quality too.
There you go.
Okay, so let's go back to the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, next page, please.
You got that?
Yes.
Can you see it?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see it now. So here is the like just general picture of what we are doing. We have our own cells, own BMS, own battery modules. We also can make the racks and a container solution for commercial and utility scales. So what's the benefit to our clients to have cells and BMS? So it's not only the cost control or supply chain control. It's also for the continued business for our clients. For example, if in like after 5 years, maybe the end user wants to add a few 5, 10 extra battery modules to the system, how to make the old batteries and the new batteries to compatible with each other. So that is the big difference between us with other pack just module manufacturer. We can use our BMS program and we know our cells. We just give some software solutions to our partners to help to upgrade each systems, whoever wants to do expansion in the future. Okay, next page, please.
You see it, the new one?
Oh, yeah, okay. So here is some strength. So number one, we have more than 10 years in R&D for our own cells. We know our cells from the beginning till today. And we know how it works, how it performs. That's also very important for us to do the long-term business and after-sale service. Second one, our quality. As I mentioned, we only produce energy storage batteries, and we focus, make us more professional. Overall quality management system to ensure, of course, every year we are still improving, but to make sure we focus to make sure we can deliver good quality, continue good quality to the products to the market. And for the products, the third one, our products is a modular design, which gave us more flexibility for the O&M in the future and also for the expansion in the future. After sales service, in every region, we have local even representative or office to provide the after sales service. And we make sure we can respond within 24 hours. If in like the same region, have to do the response or feedback. But if in different regions, but here I'm already in American, so I normally respond very fast. And also for the after sales, right now, I guess most of the guests here are Frankensolar's clients, not a problem, because Frankensolar is a big company here, and I believe can last for a long time. But even for some small distributors, they may be distributed some Pylontech batteries, but maybe a few years later, they change the business. That time, you still can find us with the serial number on the battery. Then you can show us what you got, what's the problem. You can contact us from the website directly. That's not a problem. And also for the last one, market. Yeah, the last one, market. And we have already built a good market reputation in Europe, Australia, and we have been working with more than 40 inverters, different brands of inverters, to make sure it's compatible. It's easier for our distributors to sell in different inverters. And also we already got a certificate for North American market. UL 9540A, UL 1703. This is the key entry into the market. And the next page, please. So here is the history of our company. We established it in 2009 in Shanghai. The headquarters is in Shanghai. And why we established this company? Actually, our parent company is ZTE, has different divisions. And at that time, we were thinking to produce BESS to support telecom tower because they are one of the biggest telecom company in China. But even that time, solar was booming, especially in Europe. But so our high-level team was thinking solar as renewable everywhere. Eventually, everywhere should use solar electricity. So of course, it will affect the grid. But it's impossible for any country to upgrade the grid system for the whole country. Then we have to make a bridge for the renewable energy to the grid. So we developed the renewable compatible BESS that time. And we we know it's good products, and we started from small, from residential products. So in the next few years, we opened the European and the Australian market very fast because the solar there was already as a mature products there. And in 2019, we started to thinking about commercial solutions. So till today, in last 3 years, we have developed some commercial solutions like 180 kilowatt hour per rack for some small commercial systems. And in 2020, we are lucky to got a public listed in China stock market as the first energy storage company. It's a very strict criteria for any technical company got a public list there. And till today, we are rely on our partners. We are continually growing. Next page, please. So this is a nice curve. Growing trends of Pylontech global deliveries. Hopefully these trends keep going up like a rocket. Of
Absolutely.
course, it will rely on everyone working together. So this is a very interesting report, ITP. ITP is a third-party battery test center from Australia. And they tested with more than 10 brands of the batteries. You see here, the picture here, after 2000 cycles, Pylontech has the most capacity of the batteries. Actually, this test was our first generation of our batteries, US 2000B, US 3000C even better. Next page, please.
That's a great chart.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't add this here. I added another page in my new presentation. Another page during last 4 years testing. There's no defect of Pylontech, in ITP test center. But other brands, they all had problems, have to repair, fix it and then retest. But Pylontech, they don't have it. I can send you the full report later on.
Okay.
Yeah, and here is the certificates and awards we already got. In last 2 years, we ranked as top brand in Italy, Spain, and Australia. And for North America, we have CSA certificate, UL certificate. We also have certificate for Japan, which is JET, and have certificate in Germany. Also, most strict quality requirements there. Next page, please. So here is the full portfolio of our products. We produce from 12 watts, which is for outdoor activities. You can go to the beach, park, take this one. And the second one, 12 watts, which is the new products, just got a certificate. Maybe Alex will give the detailed
Absolutely.
introduction.
Alex will do a deep dive into that one for you guys in a few minutes. He's actually just received the first test units here ourselves. So Alex is doing, there you go. You can see him in the background.
Oh, I can see it there.
Yeah. So we're really excited about that. And we've even had a lot of people ask about it already. So now go ahead.
Yeah. Then also 12 or 24 watts, 48 watts, also stackable high voltage system, more for use residential projects. We also can do the UPS projects and small commercial container solutions. So this is the full range of the energy storage system.
Excellent.
Okay, next page. So our products can use in anywhere needed the energy storage. Can do backup ESS, residential, commercial, industrial, utility scale, even telecom. Next page. Okay, Alex will do this. This is just like an introduction of 12 watts.
Yeah, sorry.
Just so yeah. Then all the rest is just projects.
Yeah,
Project
yeah,
development.
exactly. Alex will go into this in just a couple of projects here. Obviously, I QQ had a whole bunch of projects. I cut it down to a few. There's obviously really large projects, 1 megawatt, 2 megawatt hours in the US. That's a self-consumption backup commercial ESS. Then peak shaving projects in Germany, in the Antarctica, 132 kilowatt hour project in the Antarctica, quite exciting. Finland, 1.5 megawatt hours. So yeah, I'll pass it on to Alex now.
Perfect. Thank you very much. What I want to do is a little bit more a technical deep dive into the product we're all excited about, the new 12-volt battery Pylontech brought to the market, and how it can be used in different applications. And we see here a quick overview. We want to talk about the technical specs, the wiring, the sizing of a system, the integration features, and the app we can use with that product now. The main feature, the thermal management, specifically for a Canadian market where we experience low temperature applications in some of those scenarios. And then we talk about what makes the product a safe product and where are the limits of that product from a technical perspective. And then at the end, we really talk about what are the actual limits of lithium in the Canadian climate for batteries we have today, and of course for batteries with that new heating feature down the road. Right, Danny, next page, please. Let's jump right into the key features. It is, as I mentioned, a 12-volt battery. So the nominal voltage is actually here 12.8 because we have 4 lithium iron phosphate cells in series that will form the 12.8. It's a 100 amp hour nominal rating, and that makes, if you multiply these two numbers, a 1.28 kilowatt hour battery. The voltage range is very, very similar to a lead acid, let's say, drop-in replacement. So we also have the very common 14.4 volt on the high side, and it can go down all the way to 10.8. From a current application perspective, the maximum current Pylontech specifies is 100 amps per battery, which is quite large. That would represent a 1C discharge application. And the peak current goes all the way up to about 200 amps. Since it is a lithium-ion battery, the weight and size is extremely small compared to a more conventional lead-acid battery. It's only 12 kilograms or about 26 pounds for the system. It has a nice handle on top. That's that Pylontech mark in the middle, which you can fold out to lift the battery up in the middle. So it's extremely convenient to carry around if you have a mobile application. The other thing which is different, some batteries already have it, the same applies to now the Pylontech Mobile, is a NEMA 6P. So it's fully dust sealed and it's also fully watertight. The IP67 or the NEMA 6P actually specifies that the battery can be submerged for up to 30 minutes. That's something you should typically not do, of course, but if you have, for example, application in a boat where you have a trailing motor for fishing purposes, for example, then there might be the odd splash of water that gets on the battery, and that's not a problem whatsoever with that system. One, Danny? So what are typical specifications or applications that this battery can be used? Compared to the US 3000C, which is more a stationary rack mount battery in 19-inch, that's the larger brother of that battery model. This battery is really designed for smaller applications and more mobile applications. For example, the general application in small off-grid hunting cabins, cottages, tiny homes are a very core application for these kind of batteries. Installations in RVs and camper vans, van life, very popular with people in the US to drive around in their vans. Work trucks, if you want to have an inverter with 120 volt power supply to recharge power tools or run a circular saw out of your truck. Golf carts can be retrofitted by replacing the previous lead-acid batteries in multiple voltage ranges, typically in the 24 to 48 volt range, with 4 or 8 of those Pylontech batteries. Cleaning machines that also use typically AGM batteries can be replaced with that lithium chemistry. As I mentioned, outdoor sports, fishing, and these trailing motors that are electric, it's absolutely perfect because it's super lightweight, very easy to use out of your truck in the boat. You can take it back home very easily without lifting significantly amounts of weights in and out of your truck and in and out of your boat. Onboard power supply for sails boats and regular motorboats is a thing. I can mention it right away. It's not a starting battery, so it's pretty much a deep cycle battery for the supply on the boat loads. And we have special applications where buoys are being used for navigation lights in the offshore applications and data acquisition for weather and wave height and whatnot. That's a special application where we work with someone who is doing that. As a general rule of thumb, up to 16 batteries can be connected with the communication the Pylontech batteries offer. So you can jump them from one battery to the other when it comes to the communication. And the communication takes care pretty much of all the balancing and the readout of state of charge. We will look at that a little bit later. But as a general rule of thumb, the system can be used with 12, 24, 36, and 48 volt configurations. The maximum is 16, of course, in case you go with a more specialized 36 volt scenario. Then, of course, you're maxing out at 15 batteries because you always have to have 5 groups of 3 batteries in series, which gives you the 16. And then, of course, the more common 48 volt configuration for larger systems, where you have up to 4 batteries in series and up to 4 of those strings in parallel. Next one. Okay, one of the main features I'm super excited about, specifically for the application we just talked about, is each battery has a Bluetooth module built in, and that Bluetooth module can be connected to a cell phone. And on the right side, you see my cell phone and a screenshot from yesterday, where I logged into the battery just right behind me. And you can see a basic overview on that starting page on the dashboard, how full the battery is, in this case, 97%. You can see the min and max battery cell temperature. And on the bottom, you have the voltage and the current draw or recharging. In this case, it's charging at 1.1 amps in my test setup here, and the power that's coming out at 14 watts. You can also easily configure the system, and we will go through the configuration process in the next few slides through that app. I have to mention this is the first version of the app, version 1.0, and there will be some modification to make it a little bit more user-friendly, that the numbers are bigger and it's a little bit more, one page shows you more operation features, what we have currently here. Next page, Danny. What it does when you initially install the system, it gives you a quick overview how the wiring can be done, not only on the power side, but also on the communication side. Here on the first slide, we will see the standard parallel application when you just use it as a 12 volt system with 1 up to 16 batteries. Next slide. Same thing can be applied to battery systems that at higher voltage, so 24, 36, and 48 volts. This is just a sample picture how you would wire it. It's pretty self-explanatory. In series for a 24, 36, and the 48. And then, of course, if you have batteries that have 24 or higher and you want to have more capacity, you can also have the multiple strings of 24 or 36 or 38 or 48 batteries in parallel, and that shows you how it's being wired when you have a parallel and series connection. Communication wiring is super simple because each Pylontech battery for the RT12100 comes with the jumper cable for the communication. So each battery has a link 1 and a link 0. The link 0 is always the outgoing, and then it goes to the link 1, and so on and so forth. The next page shows a little bit more complex scenario. Exactly, for 4 batteries, you have one cable that is coming out. That's the top one with that blue text. That's the communication to a higher level system when you want to read out the system, for example, with a Victron Servo GX device. But then downstream, you just daisy chain all the batteries until you are at the last battery. Now the main configuration page, you have to tell the system, of course, how you want to use it. I just picked 2 samples here in case you have, for example, 2 batteries and it's a regular 12-volt system. You tell the configuration setup you have 1 in series, so 12 volts, and 2 parallels in parallel, which is the 2 you select, and then the system automatically shows you the voltage ranges between 10 and 14 volts, as we already saw on the initial data sheet. The next page shows an example where you, for example, have a 48-volt nominal system, and you want to have 2 strings of 4 batteries, so 8 in total, and that would be exactly series 4, 2 strings in parallel, and now the correlated voltage between 40 and 57. There's also a more detailed view. In my scenario right behind me, I only have 2 batteries connected, and if you want to see specifics of each battery, you can actually open that segment and you can see every data per battery itself. If you click the next slide, Danny, you will see one of those batteries, for example, the voltage you can read out, the actual current. You can see the status of the battery, if it's discharging just in float mode, or if it's actually charging. You see, as earlier mentioned, the minimum and maximum temperature of the cells, the firmware version of the product, and so on. So a very, very easy way of seeing what's going on in a battery or in the entire system if you have more than 1 battery connected in a battery system. Next one. The main advantage with that battery and the available communication is you can also connect it to a Victron system that is really super easy to connect, because literally all you have to do is plug in that outgoing communication. In this case, it's a CAN bus to the battery management system of the Servo GX. And there is 0 communication and programming needed. Sorry, not communication, the programming. Literally, once you plug in, the Servo GX will automatically recognize the Pylontech battery, and all the parameters are already submitted to the system. Again, I did it behind here in my test setup, and all I did was literally plugging in that RG45 connector, and that was it. You can use it just as a DC system. 1 second, Danny, to the old one, previous page. You can use it just as a DC system where you have a charge controller. Any Victron charge controller can participate in that system over the VE bus, or you can use it as a DC and AC system where you have an inverter connected to the batteries as well. That is then connected over the VE CAN. So this diagram only shows the communication at this point. You can also use the batteries without any communication, just as a, let's say, dumb drop-in replacement, where you take a lead-acid battery out of an application and you replace it one-to-one with the Pylontech 12100. That's an overview how the Servo GX, for example, would display the system I have here, and how the readout of the Pylontech will be displayed on that portal. You can see that with a laptop over Ethernet or Wi-Fi when you connect to the Servo GX. You can also use your cell phone over Bluetooth connection directly to the Servo GX, or you can use it even remotely if you have internet access available at that location through the Victron monitoring portal online. So very straightforward, very easy to understand, very easy to implement a solution that overall is actually quite low cost compared to a lot of the other solutions on the market. Great. Now we dive a little bit deeper into the normal operation of a lead-acid lithium battery and what a thermal management can do to widen that operation range. What we see here is a very typical performance window, discharge and charge rates when we look into the orange or brown line. So the lithium battery, the lithium iron phosphate from Pylontech and many other manufacturers can typically be discharged down to about -20 degrees Celsius. And you can typically charge at full nameplate rating. In this case, it's about 100% of the charge rate. For the 12-volt batteries, that's 100 amps maximum, up to about 40 degrees. And if it goes beyond 40 degrees, then you should not charge at full power and curtail the charge current a little bit to not exceed the temperature ratings of that battery for proper life expectancy. On the charging level, however, that's the blue line you see. That's too fast, Danny. Charging is severely restricted towards low temperatures. So the general rule of thumb is you should not charge a lithium iron phosphate battery below 0 degrees. And that's exactly the point where the heating and thermal management comes in with the 12-100 battery we're talking about today. The thermal management will open up that window to a much wider operation range, from down to -40 all the way up to that 40 degrees Celsius you see in that diagram. And that applies for discharging and charging, because what it does, the integrated thermal pad is managing and maintaining the core temperature, so the cell temperature of the battery, in the 4 to 7 degrees Celsius range. And in the next slide, we have a little bit the performance overview how that works. Of course, heating a battery, in this case, of course, electrically over an electric heat pad, will require power to actually do that. I have 3 operation points just as an example. We can draw that into a diagram as well, but that gives you a good overview how the system works. At the worst scenario possible, the battery is non-insulated and it's just sitting in an environment that is -40 degrees Celsius. The heating pad has to run quite hard to keep the battery temperature in that 4 to 7 degree Celsius range, and that applies to the, as I said, core of the battery where the cells are located. And for that, the continuous power draw of that heat pad is about 50 watts. So you will spend about 1.2 kilowatt hours a day just to maintain the temperature if the battery is not insulated in a cabinet and just exposed directly to these low temperatures. The way it works is the battery itself and its internal BMS system will manage a duty cycle, which means how many time or how many minutes the heating pad is on, and then how many minutes the heating pad is off, and that's continuously adjusted. And for that extreme case scenario, we have about 25 minutes where the heating pad is on, and then it's followed by a 15-minute off period. And if you calculate the duty cycle, it's about 62%, and that will lead to 50 watts of the effective draw continuously of the battery. That's, of course, the absolute extreme case. So for a lot of the applications, we have temperatures that are below 0, but maybe not significantly below -20. And there, the power draw is already significantly lower. We're talking about at the 0 degree mark, about 6 watts average power consumption, just to maintain a healthy level of that battery. In order to have an effective and energy efficient way of heating your batteries, you don't want to place them outside and exposed to the element. Ideally, you place them in a heated enclosure or not heated, but insulated enclosure, that the heat loss from the battery and the integrated heating pad is not as high as just having airflow and cold air surrounding the batteries at all times. That will significantly reduce your power consumption for the heating, and of course will keep the whole system operating a lot better. Jumping right into the safety features and thresholds then on the second page here. The BMS system is continuously monitoring all the cells, the temperature, the current, and the total operation of the battery. For example, the system has temperature protection not only on the low end of the spectrum, but also it has the protection on the high end. So for example, if it's super hot outside and someone would abuse the battery with very heavy discharge current or very large charge currents, if the cells are getting too hot, the battery system will automatically disconnect either the charge or the discharge operation, because that can be handled separately. It also has overvoltage protection. So if the voltage goes beyond that 14.4 volts we have discussed earlier, the battery will protect itself from damage. Same applies to overcurrent. If you draw too much or you have a short circuit condition, the battery will protect itself by shutting down. And that's the last part. The heating film, that's the one we discussed. And every cell is being temperature managed and actively balanced, so that all the lithium cells, the 4 we have in that system, are always nicely symmetric to each other. Now we dive a little bit deeper into the actual performance and where the cutoffs are, because that's very important to understand what the battery, one or then more. All of these values apply for only one battery, so you can multiply it on the current side if you have multiple of those batteries in series or in parallel, or if you have them in series for larger 24, 36, or 48 volt batteries, the voltage, of course, will then be multiplied by 2, 3, or 4. Voltage range, as we discussed, you should keep the voltage on the charging below 14.4. So a typical very good charging voltage I'm using right now is about 14 volts. That gives you enough headroom to not be close to that cutoff limit, and you still have a proper charge of the battery to 100% if you like to charge to 100%. On the lower side, you should also not really go too deep or too close to that 10.8. So a proper shut off would be in the 11.5 range, for example, just to not drive the battery extremely low and extremely high on the state of charge ranges. The early data sheet at the beginning showed 100 amp is the target current of this battery. You should not run that battery continuously at overcurrent. So you get a warning message on the Victron portal, for example, if the continuous current will exceed 110 amps. Not shutting down here at 110, but it will just give you a warning message. If you exceed 120 amps for a minute, then the system will protect itself for continuous overcurrent. And if you have a peak current that exceeds 200 amps for a very short amount of time of 10 milliseconds, then the system will also protect itself. That's for the charging, by the way. For the discharging, we have similar numbers, a little bit lower on the peak because it's 170 amps for 30 seconds, where the battery limits the or allows for only 30 seconds at that very high peak current. Typically, that's not the case for one battery alone. If you have high current applications that need that 100, 200 amp current, it would make sense to size the battery system properly by adding a second or even a third or more batteries to distribute the current evenly over not just one battery. It's also short circuit protected if you really have a hard short on the system within 100 microseconds. So typically much faster than any fuse that melts or a breaker. The internal overcurrent protection measurement will trip and disconnect the system. So it's very safe, even in a worst case scenario that you have a short scenario.
Alex, we have a question here.
Sure.
Solar Superstore is asking if the Bluetooth module will have a significant drain on the battery.
It will not have a significant drain. I think it's below 50 microamps, so it's almost nothing on the actual operation. Yes, if you would put a battery on a table or on a shelf and keep it in the on position for, let's say, half a year, that's not a supposed or a general design what you should use. You should definitely turn it off by the button that is on the top. But in a normal application where it's in continuous use, RV, cottage, whatnot, that's not an issue whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. If anyone has other questions, feel free to write them into chat, and then we also will have a time at the end to ask some questions. Exactly. Yeah.
Next page. On the temperature level, we also have the protections, as I earlier mentioned. The high temperature cutoff is at 75 when you charge the system, or at 78 degrees when you discharge the system. This is already pretty excessive to have a battery and a cell temperature at 75. So generally, if you have high power applications, A, use multiple batteries, and B, don't put them in a place where they can get extremely hot. On the low side, if the system is not heated, so if you don't enable that heating function, the battery will turn the discharge off at minus 21 degrees C. All of those thresholds and shut-off state will self-clear in these cases, and it's either 60 degrees here, or in case of the discharge limit, once the temperature goes then above 17 degrees, then the system will allow for the battery to be continued to be discharged. Next page. So what are applications these batteries are not suitable for? And that's very important to understand, because a lot of people look for the all-in-one kind of solutions, and different batteries and different battery chemistries have different applications. So with these deep cycle batteries, these are typically, and in this case, the lithium iron phosphate, they are not starter batteries. So you should not use those batteries to try to start your boat engine or try to replace your car starter battery with that lithium chemistry. It's not designed for extremely high peak currents for a very short amount of time. It's designed for lower current for a long time and to actually use the stored energy in that battery. The thermal management for these extremely low temperature applications we see in Canada for cottages, they are dependent on an energy source that is actually able to replenish the system, to recharge the battery, or to provide enough power to maintain that temperature level when the heating pad is on. So you cannot install a system that is in a hunting cabin. You put those batteries in. The hunting cabin does not have any heat, of course, in the deepest of winter when it's not in use. And the temperature might drop to minus 30 degrees. But at the same time, you have extremely high snow loads on the roof, and you have whatever 4, 5, 6 feet of snow on your panels. There is no energy source that will be able to heat those batteries and will replenish those batteries. So such an application still is not possible with any product on the market. With the plain and simple explanation, you need to put energy in to actually make that happen. Some people can mitigate that issue by having panels vertical on the facade of such a hunting cabin, that the snow coverage is not as problematic as having them almost flat or at 30 degrees on a rooftop, something like that, just to enable the system to have at least some generation in the winter that is in that range of what the power consumption is to make the temperature management perfect. Exactly. And then place the batteries in a cabinet or enclosure that you don't have to go all the way down to minus 40 and to heat them up. So you really lower the actual energy consumption for the system to be thermally managed. Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Alex. I think if there are any questions, now is the time for those. Either myself, Alex, or QQ can answer those. You can either write them in the chat if you have some, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question verbally. So right now will be the time for that. If not, that's okay too. If Alex answered all the questions, that works.
I think I have to add one thing. We mainly see the application of that battery in that recreational environment. It's not typically a battery you put in your basement or in your garage or something for stationary backup or something like that. You can certainly do that, but the real focus is on that mobile application, typically together with Victron, because Victron integration is just extremely easy to do, as I mentioned and showed, and it's just a very good cost-effective solution to implement these tiny homes, RVs, and yeah, recreational environments or applications.
Yeah, and we will also have a webinar in the next few weeks about the 3000 series Pylontech batteries that are designed for battery backup and off-grid applications. By all means, like this solution definitely also works in an off-grid application, especially if there are some low temperature considerations to be had. Because that is an advantage of this battery. QQ, I believe the new version of your larger batteries will also have the heating, right? But it'll be a few more months before that's available.
I think we are still developing that one.
Still developing. Okay. Yeah, but it is something that over long term, of course, will come, where we will have some heating features in those. Right now, they are not heated like this battery. So if it is an application where you want to go with a heated battery, this is certainly a solution that would work. So yeah, if we don't have any questions, then would like to thank everyone. Oh, Drew is holding up his hand.
Hey, Danny.
Hey, Drew.
Do you guys have any? You talked about insulated cases or cabinets. Do you guys have any preferred ones, recommended ones that work well with the Pylontech batteries? Because obviously you're going to go way further if you've got insulation and you're not just relying on the heating.
So we do not have custom pre-made cabinets for that battery. Most installers typically design a plywood box that has insulation around the location, as they've done with lead-acid batteries for decades before. A similar approach would be for those batteries as a custom-made, locally made and assembled battery cabinet.
Yeah, I figured I would just ask. Thanks.
Good question. Thank you, Drew. Good stuff. Okay, well, thanks everyone for attending, and keep an eye open for future webinars. Oh, there's another question. Alex, can you see the question?
Yeah, I can see the question. So we're not looking at the light and the power consumption of that light specifically. We have to calculate that depending on where you are. I can probably speak more to the energy demand to keep the battery at -10. If we go back to the slide where the unheated or uninsulated option is at between 0 and -25, with about between 6 and 25 watts that are needed on a continuous basis for the battery in that scenario. So assuming you put that battery in an environment that has a little bit of insulation around it, you probably can get down to about 10 watts of continuous heated power, which means that on a 24-hour basis, in the deepest of winter at -10, in your case, you would probably need about, 240 watt hours, if my math is correct, of power being produced by your solar system. So when we assume in a winter scenario where you have already very short days and low light conditions, you typically need about 1 watt per 1 watt hour of daily consumption, which means to just heat the battery, you need a panel that is about 200, 250 watts to only allocate that solar power for the heating alone.
Okay. Excellent.
The insulation part, Solar Power
Yeah.
Store asked a question, that technically can be done. However, in the summer, for example, or for other applications, the battery also needs to be cooled. So if you have in the summer, if you go whatever RV and the battery location has 30 degrees Celsius and you use the batteries hard, they also need to dissipate heat. So it's always a two-way street. You want to have them insulated for deep temperatures in the winter, but you don't also want to insulate them and keep them warm if you heavily use them in the summer. So that's something where a vented battery cabinet or battery cabinet where you can open the lid in the summer when it gets really hot in that location. That really depends on your specific usage and application, where the battery is put, and how secondary heat sources like placing the battery within an RV, where the RV is also being kept at a certain temperature when the system is being used.
Yeah, I think it would also add cost, obviously, to do that. And then I would assume the -40 thing or -20 or whatever, it's still a niche application of this product overall. So it would drive up the cost for everyone, and it just wouldn't make much sense to do it that way. I mean, if someone wanted to develop a battery specifically only for very cold temperature, that could be done, of course. But again, then it's a smaller market and the cost would go up because it's a niche product. So there's some problems, unfortunately, with that solution. Maybe we'll see it in the future if there's more demand for that sort of product, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. Perfect. Well, thank you everyone very much, and we'll do more of these. We try to have a webinar every couple of weeks on a specific topic, so you'll see us for sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.